Hello, I'm Natasha Chilingarian.
And I'm Michael Ogden. This is Shared Accounts with CU Times, sponsored this month by Valera, formerly PSCU and Co-op Solutions. Thank you, Valera. It's August, which means I still haven't taken a summer vacation and I need to renew my tags on the license plate. But instead of talking about all the things I'm not going to get done on time, let's all take a warm and slow summer walk down memory lane together and reminisce on the past. Kind of like Mr. Rogers going to see Mr. McFeely. We're putting on our shoes and light cardigan and going outside. Come on, join us. Natasha, producer Zach, you two ready?
I am.
I am ready. Let's go.
All right, let's go. Ooh, it is lovely outside today. Hey, Zach.
Yes, Michael.
Zach, you ever get into a fight at school?
All the time.
Oh, me too. Ooh, feel that warm breeze. Hey, Natasha.
Yeah, Michael?
Natasha, you ever slash your neighbor's tires?
Oh, yeah. Yes, those were the days.
Right? Ooh, this hair is so clean today. Hey, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
You ever regret asking someone out to prom and telling them about it?
Oh, 3 or 4 times.
Oh, same. Ooh, we're really getting in our steps today, aren't we? Hey, Natasha.
Yes, Michael?
Natasha, you ever been arrested?
Oh, of course. What do you think?
Absolutely, same here. I suppose we should head back, but before we go back inside, I do want to ask one last thing of each other. How many times have you all pulled a knife on someone?
For me, it was 3, almost 4. Almost
Yeah?
4. I had to control
Th-
myself, but
yeah?
yeah, I sure
Zach?
did.
I'm trying to count, but I've run out of fingers.
Oh,
So let's just say 10.
okay. Mine's one, but Zach and Natasha, thanks for taking this warm summer walk with me, strolling down juvenile detention memory lane.
Oh, you're very welcome. That was rejuvenating.
Hmm,
It was just wonderful reminiscing.
yes.
Absolutely.
And scene. Okay, what'd y'all think?
Yeah, that was very revealing. Not sure if we're being sarcastic or not,
I
but
We
I'm
were
pretty sure we
absolutely,
are.
that was all lies. I mean, those weren't
Well,
true answers.
Totally.
Yeah, said Zach, fingers crossed. Oh, I don't know why I wrote it that way, but I thank you both for playing along.
all right. Well, I'm glad we clarified that that was a lie because we might be having a special meeting with
With HR,
our
yeah.
HR, yeah, pretty soon. So,
All
all
right.
right, we're really pushing it, huh?
Let's get to it. Here we go. Welcome to Shared Accounts with CU Times. Coming up, we're speaking with our very own Jim Duplessis, our finance and data crunching reporter who's hopping on with us to discuss recent payment trend data. We're also going to go over credit, debit, and even some political donation trends that Jim's been reporting on. It's going to be kind of like a newsroom discussion that we have every week, digging in deeper, though, to Jim's brain. Stay tuned for that. First up, let's take a break from the week with Natasha. And
Hey, Em.
how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, just
Yeah?
trying to enjoy the rest of summer. It's been hot, but
Mm-hmm.
I do have, I'm not sure if I brought this up on the pod yet. I don't think I have. In the
What's that?
time from our last recording till now, I did acquire an air conditioner. So that has
Oh,
been very helpful. I thought I could make it through another summer without one because I had this really good fan. And last
yeah.
summer it was okay. I was like, hey, I don't need air, I don't need AC, but
Yeah.
yeah, I pretty much had a full-on nervous breakdown
Oh,
after it was the
Lord.
July 4th weekend. It was
Mhm.
over 100,
Ugh.
and it was bad. Like, I started getting, like, symptoms of heat exhaustion, so I just was like, "I'm ordering."
100 up in the mountains?
Yeah,
Jeez.
things are changing, it's
A
extreme
little
weather
bit.
now, you gotta just expect that as the norm.
Yeah.
But, yeah, all the houses here were built without AC, and so now people are having to
Yep.
install it, so
I couldn't live
ugh,
without it.
yeah.
What did you watch, this past week then?
Yeah, let's see. I watched quite a few things. So I feel like I kind of have 2 different categories of things I
Mhm.
watch. There's, like, the movies that I have on my list that I'm trying to get to, and that's usually on the weekend. Like, I'll watch movies on the weekend, and then during the
Uh-huh.
week, I'll do my documentary reality show
Yeah,
stuff. So
right.
with the movies, there was one I'll bring up. This was not my choice. I will say this was my boyfriend picked it. So I was like,
Okay.
okay, I guess this is what I'm watching now. It was a movie from the 90s. It was with Meryl Streep and Kevin Bacon. I'm not sure who else was in it, called The River Wild.
Oh, sure, The River Wild. Yeah.
Right. I knew nothing about this at all.
Okay.
So I left a review of it, just a one-line review on that app that you also use, Letterboxd. I actually joined that, and so that's been
Yeah.
kind of fun to just
Yes,
track,
you did.
yeah, track movies that I've been
Uh-huh.
watching. And so my review was Deliverance, but make it a cheesy 90s family movie. 'Cause
Aw,
that's what it was. It was like
okay.
going through the wilderness on this river and, like, fearing for your
Yeah.
life, someone's about to kill you, but then it
Mhm.
also had all the elements of, like, a really annoying, cheesy 90s, types of
Yeah,
characters and what you would
yeah.
expect from a movie back then, so that was
How many
kinda
stars did you
weird.
give it?
I think I just gave it 2 because it wasn't really,
Okay.
I don't know, I was like, "Eh, whatever."
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was my movie pick. My documentaries,
Mhm.
let's see, I finished a documentary about this girl who was murdered in South Africa,
God.
Bonnie.
Can I pause you right there for a second?
Yeah, sure.
The things you watch are, to my brain, I just couldn't sit there and watch
Really?
it.
Oh, it's
And
just
I
so it's
appreciate that you
relaxing, I don't know.
do.
Yeah.
I love that you do 'cause I just couldn't do it. So
Yeah, I
thank
don't
you.
know. I don't know if it's I
Thank
know
you
it
for
is
your
a thing, like,
service.
I don't know if it's mostly other women that do this, but yeah, watching true crime is actually,
Yeah.
like, relaxing in a way. It's very
Wow.
odd, but
Okay.
you're just separated from it, you're not it's
Mhm.
not someone you know, so I don't know, I enjoy it. So,
Okay.
yeah, that was interesting. It was a whole story, that happened, like, 15 years ago, so I hadn't heard about it, but it was good. It
Uh-huh.
was an interesting, series.
Okay.
Anyway, so what about you? What did you watch that was non-murder related?
No, mine were murder related, just not real.
Not real, yeah.
I found this movie over the weekend called Lady Snowblood. It came
Hmm,
out in 1973.
okay.
It's a Japanese movie. You can absolutely tell how Quentin Tarantino got his inspiration for Kill Bill. This movie
Okay,
is really a prequel to that in a lot of ways.
interesting.
Lady Snowblood, 1973. A baby is born, Lady Snowblood, and she basically is raised to take revenge for her mother and what happened to her.
Wow.
And I gave it 4 stars on
Oh,
Letterboxd,
oh, okay.
and my review was arterial spray has rarely been this fun. I
Okay.
had a blast watching it. Lady
Wow.
Snowblood, recommend.
Awesome, okay. Well, that's an obscure one. I'd never heard of it.
I hadn't either. I stumbled across it from a movie critic from The Atlantic, David Sims, who I follow. He wrote something about it, and I was like, I don't know this movie. So I looked it up and watched it immediately, and it was great.
Cool. What platform did you find it on?
I found it on Letterboxd.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been actually, I don't know if you heard this, but they're doing a bundle of Max, Hulu, and Disney Plus.
Hmm.
And I actually, well, I subscribe to Max and Hulu separately. So I was like, oh, I should do
Okay.
that, save some money.
Uh-huh.
But I couldn't figure out how to do it. It was so dumb. They're like, oh, you should go to the, no, now you have to do it through
Ugh,
Hulu. Well, no, you have to do it through
I
iTunes. And then it wasn't
hate
available on iTunes. And I just gave up. And I was
ugh,
like, I'll just keep paying more. I don't care. They
I
make it too
hate
complicated.
the
Yeah,
state of streaming right
it's
now is
crazy.
terrible. It's really bad.
There should just be one platform for everything, don't you think? Wouldn't
Well,
that be easier? I don't know.
that's just going back to cable then.
I guess so, then it's just cable, yeah. I
Yep,
don't know. It's a mess, but what
it
do you
is.
expect in this country? I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to our interview with
Sure.
Jim. So I would like to note Jim is our first ever return guest to the
Yep.
podcast, and I think it's really fun having on a staff member on as a guest so that people can kind of get to know them better. Because,
Uh-huh.
with our readers, all they're seeing is just a name on a story. They don't know anything about them. And then,
Right.
as far as others who might be listening, maybe there's some sources that he's interviewed that might be listening, but they've only gotten to know the interview persona of him. Now they
Mhm.
can see kind of what is he like outside of his
Yeah.
interviewing persona and get to know him a little bit. I like the idea. It just kind of humanizes someone
Mm.
that you just, you see them as a name or
Oh, yeah.
as a professional. So I think that's
Mm.
cool. He gave us a good behind the scenes look at how he puts a data driven story together,
Yep.
which hopefully will be interesting for our all of our listeners. Then we went on to have a really delightful talk about some of his experiences in the past as a local newspaper reporter in Greenville,
Hmm.
South Carolina. I had a lot of fun hearing about
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
And he gives some more tidbits of information about his life outside of work. So
Yep.
we have all of that coming up next.
Hey, listeners. This episode is sponsored by Valera, formerly PSCU and Co-op Solutions, the nation's premier payments credit union service organization and integrated financial technology solutions provider. Valera serves more than 4,000 financial institutions throughout North America. Hey, that's here. Operating with velocity to help its clients keep pace with the rapid momentum of change and fuel growth in the new era of financial services. Valera, thanks for sponsoring. Check them out.
Joining us in the virtual studio today is CU Times financial reporter and data cruncher extraordinaire, Jim Duplessis. Jim, welcome back to the show.
Well, good to be here, Natasha.
Good to be with you as well. All right, so let's just get right into it. Last week, you wrote a story for us that said credit union members spent twice as much on payments to Democratic groups than they did to Republican groups by credit card. And that was based on the most recent Valera Payments Index for the month of June. So, what we're wondering is since political spend it's probably a small portion of the different kinds of payments that are shown in this particular report from Valera. So, why did you decide to lead with this particular topic for that story?
Well, I almost didn't. I write about the Valera Payments Index almost every month,
Right.
and I have a process I go through to pick out certain numbers and put it into a spreadsheet,
Mhm.
generate a graph, etc. So it's very hyper focused.
Yeah.
I skimmed through the report, had seen it, was there, but then when I back up to start writing the actual story, I realized that was the story. That was the most interesting thing by a mile. And
Mhm.
so I went back into that, and it had just enough meat on the bones to make a lead out of it. So I went with it.
I'd like to explain this to our audience, to our readers. So let's dive in a little bit more. What counts as political spend in the Valera Payments Index?
Well, they're saying that, first of all, they can see the payees on transactions.
Okay.
And for political spending these days, two biggest are ActBlue and WinRed, these easy to use apps that you can easily give your money to the Democrat or Republican of your choice at any
Mhm.
time from any device. That's how they want it.
Okay.
So most of those are that, and other things that I guess they can see that it's obviously a Republican candidate by name. They can
Mhm.
see, or if you gave to the Republican Party, they would see that. Other times, and I think it's about 13% of the transactions or thereabouts,
Yeah.
it's seeing something like John Doe for city council,
Mhm.
and and they can't tell what party that is, but they know it's political.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, and this is obviously a very timely topic, and
A little
with what's
bit.
happening now, things heating up. And, for June, I mean, June just seems like a world away to me in political world because nothing had really happened yet. But, if we look at the past 2 weeks, and just for our listeners, so it's July 26th is when we're recording this. That's when I'm referring to the past 2 weeks. A lot has gone on. We had
Yep.
the assassination attempt.
Mhm.
Biden has dropped out. Harris is now the
Mhm.
presumptive Democratic nominee as
Yep.
of now. Jim, just in light of all of these crazy things that have unfolded over the past 2 weeks, do you have any thoughts on how maybe the political spending might change for July in the next Valera report?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm absolutely certain it's going to change, and it's going to be fascinating.
Hmm.
The only thing I can be certain of, because when I wrote the story previously, it was before Biden dropped out.
Yeah.
So everything is changing, and July's not over.
Yeah. That is true. So, Jim, I mean, I love your confidence. Is like, oh yeah, this is going to change. What is it about it that you see from a news sense that you know something big is going to change here?
Well, it already has kind of. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying is that we're going to see a big change from June to July,
yeah,
and at least go on the limb to say that.
yeah. All right, Jim, I want to get a little bit of background on the Valera Payments Index because it has become really an important data set in your reporting and in what we analyze. Tell us a bit about the report and really what does it show and maybe even what are the limitations?
The Valera Payments Index is something I started reporting on, I guess, a few years ago
Hmm.
in the before times of the pandemic.
Right.
And what I like about it is it's reporting on payment patterns from a large group of all or largely credit union members.
Hmm.
And it's reported every month. And the methodology is explained, at least on the basics of it.
Yeah.
And they tell you the size of the base, which is now about $14 billion a month in spending volume.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it has its limits.
Hmm.
It'll tell you how much the volume changed as a percentage over 12 months. And it'll tell you that for credit cards. Then it'll tell you that for debit cards.
Okay.
But you can't put them together. You can't say how much overall spending changed. So if they're shifting from one means to another, you really don't know.
Well, if I could ask them, then how accurate a picture then are we getting of this report about what credit union members are doing with their money nationwide?
Well, it's accurate if you understand the limits.
Okay.
That's what you're getting. And I've started using a chart that basically puts these percentages and compares them to the changes in national retail spending, excluding autos, which obviously people don't buy with credit cards and debit cards,
Mm.
and they're unadjusted numbers. Usually in reports, you'll see the seasonally adjusted numbers. But in this case, since Valera is using unadjusted, I'm using unadjusted.
Okay.
And I also have added in the consumer price index. So you see the 12-month change there. So I think that helps because you can see basically how the change compares to what else is going on in the world.
Okay.
Right. But also, just to follow up on that, Jim, obviously the members that are using these credit card and debit cards from this report, it's just from credit unions that work with Valera, obviously. So, what kind of a percentage of the whole credit union industry, of all credit unions, would you say are working with Valera? Because it's only capturing those, obviously, not every single credit union that's offering a credit or debit card, correct? So, like, I guess, how big of a group do you think that is? When you look at all credit unions, like how big of a group is actually captured in this report?
I mean, it's a great question, Natasha.
Oh, good.
And the answer is I
Hmm.
don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I could probably use a couple of those numbers, like the $14 billion a month in spending volume and maybe some other things. But basically, I'm
hmm,
assuming it's pretty small, first of all, because most credit card volume, at least, is hogged by Navy Federal Credit Union.
Hmm.
So
hmm,
generally, when you talk about statistics with credit unions and credit cards overall, like from NCUA data, you're basically talking about Navy Credit Union and
yeah,
then the
interesting.
rest of the world is in there.
Hmm.
With this, I think it's safe to say Navy's not in that. They're not a customer. They're
Hmm.
big enough they
Right.
do their own payments processing.
Okay. Hmm.
So it's a sample, though. It's a sample and it's a large sample. It's like 3.3 billion transactions per year. So I'd say that's a pretty good sample. And they're consistent. They do it on a same store basis,
Hmm.
which means that they're only going to compare data from credit unions that were in the previous 12-month report.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's like to like. But the other big caveat with this is that it doesn't tell you how much members have back of the wallet, front of the wallet issues. So I may have a Acme credit union card, but I may have stopped using it much because I'm trying to get points on some big bank card.
Sure.
Hmm.
Yep, that's what I do. I use those for points. Yeah. Okay, well, that's really good to know. That's interesting. Really, you have to look at it as a sampling, but a pretty large sampling. You can't really look at it as the whole industry, the situation with Navy being so big, having its own and all that. So, okay, that's a good perspective there. Wanted to move on, talk a little bit about another story that you wrote. This came out a little earlier in July. It was called Credit Unions Slip on Credit Cards in May. And it basically said that banks gained credit card share in the month of May, while credit unions did better with auto and other consumer term loans. And you used two different reports for this story. You did use the Valera Payments Index, and then you also combined it with information from the Fed's G19 Consumer Credit Report. So I was curious if you could give us a little background on that report as well, the Fed G19 Consumer Credit Report. What does that show? Why do you like it? Why do you turn to it for your stories? And why did you use it for this particular story?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to fess up that I meant to use Valera's number for its total credit card balance.
Hmm.
Mm,
Again, it's just a percentage change, but it's the number that matches up to the number released by the Fed's G19 report.
Okay.
So I'm going to get it right next time. And the timing of it is that the Valera report for June came out July 17th, but the Fed won't report on June until August 7th, which is not that far away. So the G19 Consumer Credit Report, I just think is gold.
mm,
It's gold because, first of all, it breaks out credit unions distinct from banks and others. So it's not just how are credit unions doing, but how are they doing compared to the rest of the world.
Hmm.
And I think that's always important when you can to show that. It's got history going back to World War II on some of these numbers.
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, and they'll revise them every month. So you're not working with old or incorrect data. You can count on the fact that they're refreshing the entire database each month. So it's a great resource,
Yeah.
and I wish there were more of it for other things.
Jim, can I ask on that point about the G19 stuff? Because you're always looking to compare apples and apples. And that's a little hard to do with credit unions sometimes. Just kind of a off the cuff question here, because I want our readers to understand why this report is important to read about when you write about it. What would you say, what would that be? The reason our readers should be reading about or reading this G19 report?
Well, the G19 report itself is hard to get to. You kind of need to just grab a bunch of numbers and throw them into something and
Hmm.
then spit them out with some analysis.
And that's where you come in.
Oh,
Our readers
exactly.
can't do that.
Yeah, right. Okay, so Jim, a couple of follow-up questions on that story, the credit union slip on credit cards in May that you wrote about. One, why do you think credit unions are doing well with auto and other consumer loans, but not credit cards?
Well, actually, it's kind of the reverse. They're doing very poorly with autos and they're doing okay with credit cards. It's back and forth with banks. Right now, they're losing a bit of share to banks,
Okay.
but it's holding up pretty good. That is the balance growth, which is what I see from the consumer credit report.
Mhm.
It doesn't show spending volume, or if it does, I can't recognize it.
Okay.
So credit unions are doing pretty good compared to banks, but not as good as they were doing.
Okay, so how are credit unions doing then with member debit card spend in comparison to credit?
Well, the debit, this is one of the reasons I started that chart because you can
Hmm.
kind of see this visually more than to explain it. But basically, the debit spending is following national retail spending trends and maybe doing a little better. With the credit card spending, it has really been falling. The growth has really been sliding over the past year or so. And that's where I have to wonder if it's an issue of those cards being used less by members.
Okay.
Hmm. All right, well, let's move on to something else. So I know that you zero in on these payment stories quite a bit for us, but you also, I feel like you have a really good picture of just what's happening in the economy in the US and
Hmm.
how that's affecting credit unions. And then you've had a lot of great stories just related to that as economic conditions, and you have some good sources to speak on that. Obviously, inflation has been a big issue over the past, I don't know, it's a year or 2 years, feels like forever at this point. But right now, I'm just curious if you could fill us in on what's happening right now with inflation. It sounds like it's dropped a little bit, but things are still expensive, at least where I am on the West Coast. I don't know. Well, what is happening, do you think, right now with inflation? And then how is that impacting like member spending levels when you've been looking at the Valera report and analyzing that overall?
Well, you certainly could see the impact of inflation when it took off.
Right.
You would see the number of transactions growing moderately, but the volume of dollar spending growing a lot. So that was, as they pointed out in the reports, was an obvious impact of inflation. Now I think you see price being more reflected like in gasoline, which Valera
Mm.
reports separately. That when those prices go up, you see a change. Now they're going down, so you're seeing spending on gasoline dropping. but transactions less so. So people are driving their cars, you're just paying less for gasoline.
Right. Well, what else is new? Wish I could go back in time, right? And go to 79 cent. I'd love seeing those old pictures. It's just so wild.
What, in
Look at
1982?
1982, yeah,
Yeah,
like
sure.
gas station picture, but yeah, that's how it is.
Jim, let me ask you something about how you put the stories together. Again, kind of an insight for our readers and listeners. When you're working on a data driven story, what tools or programs do you work with? What do you rely on?
Well, on the ones that require the most work, I'm usually start with Microsoft Access for the database. And
Okay.
I use a convoluted system of workarounds for volume limitations. That's
Yeah.
generally when I'm talking about using NCUA data and some other things, so HMDA data, etc. In that case, I'll export the results from Access to Excel.
Mm-hmm.
And the database allows me to link up things to make accurate historical comparisons
Okay.
and credit union to credit union comparisons. So then the export pastes it into a spreadsheet that's already kind of prepared as a template. And what it does is it has column after column to the right of the numbers that
Yeah.
start with math and then proceed to text parsing of the results of the math and then put that into sentences
Yeah.
so that I can paste that into a text document and then into the final story.
Mhm.
So hopefully I make fewer mistakes. And I think it's a huge help in that. And I can do my work faster. It would be a lot of it would be impossible to do, but text parsing has helps me also.
Right. And you also like to use sticky notes.
Oh yeah. That's just to help me know what I'm supposed to do when I wake up in the morning.
Okay, got it.
Well, I remember, I think we had one conversation about a sticky note where it sounds like if something gets a sticky note, like a story idea or a topic or an angle, it's like it made it onto a sticky note. It is worth
Yes.
looking into.
Yeah, on our newsroom calls, I do mark it. When you say, Jim, okay, that's worth the sticky note, that means I got to write down that idea. That means that you're doing it. So,
The one on my screen now is podcast.
yeah. Okay.
Nice.
The
Yeah, we made
podcast
it.
sticky note.
Moved
Okay.
on up into the gym world. Okay, Jim. Well, let's go ahead and just move on to our second part of the podcast interview. We've been doing this with all of our guests, and I think this is fun because you're our first actual staff member that we're going to incorporate into this fun part of the interview, which is just a way to kind of have our listeners get to know you a little better, outside of your work brain.
Right.
So, yeah, this is all about you. Are you ready?
I hope so.
Okay, okay. All right, as ready as you can be. Okay, so Jim, one thing that we really appreciate about you as a reporter is that you're really not timid when it comes to like going after a story or just even pressing a source for information you need. We love that about you. I'm curious, I know you've had a whole career as a reporter, obviously pre-CU Times as well. When you look back on that, what would you say was the boldest thing you ever did for the sake of getting a story, a scoop, or an interview with someone?
I think you would have to go back to 1989.
Okay.
Okay.
Do a little scene setting. I try to keep this short, but
Oh.
okay. At the time, I had the coveted textile beat at the Greenville News in South Carolina.
Oh.
And one of the companies I covered was Roger Milliken.
Okay.
And he was a big deal in textiles and also in Republican politics.
Hmm.
In fact, he had Peter Navarro working with him on political stuff.
Oh.
Okay.
So Milliken's company was private and he was very secretive. So then when we learned that a branch of his family had filed basically a shareholder suit in Delaware Chancery Court in Wilmington, we were very excited. It means that there would be a feast of documents.
Mm-hmm.
Now, our paper was notoriously cheap. I mean, we had to write down at about that time when we were making long distance calls to the neighboring counties
Right.
Oh, wow.
to make us accountable, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was, I realized, of course, is that Chancery Court in Wilmington was where my parents lived.
Oh, right.
So I convinced my editors to pay for a train ticket, which would be cheaper, with the idea I would stay with my parents at the Hotel DuPont, and where my dad worked with them,
Okay.
Hmm.
and borrow their car to get out back and forth to the courthouse, which was fine with them.
Sure.
So I went up there, 18 hours on the train, And when I got there, since they had spent all that money on the train ticket, they thought I needed to file a story the first day.
Hmm.
So I'd only had a couple hours with the documents, and I filed the story, and it was pretty thin. And I said, this is going to tip off our competition in Spartanburg, which was intense. It's hard
Right.
to imagine that these days, but Milliken lived in Spartanburg. I was in Greenville. They're 30 miles apart.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a line of death between us. If you got beat on a story by Spartanburg, it
Hmm.
was a big deal. You would have a conversation with the executive editor.
Hmm.
Oh, wow.
So, of course, when I filed that story and was in the paper, the next day my competition was on a jet airplane to Philadelphia to come down to Delaware.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so I had to do something. So I had time with the documents and keep her away. So I requisitioned about 6 or 7 boxes of documents. And because I had them, she couldn't get them to
You
us.
couldn't get them.
So I was in this little
oh.
room writing notes down, and then I would make ordering copies. It's something you might not realize these days. Back then, that was a big deal in federal courts because they were
Yep.
milking law firms and they
Yep.
charged 50 cents a page.
Hmm.
So I kept doing this process all day. And so then she got the documents maybe at 4:49 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was out the door with a stack of copies and wrote the story, maybe beat her by 24 hours on the story.
Yep.
And it was a good story.
Got it.
And it was needed to be a good story because I presented my editors with $1,000 bill for photocopies, which
Oh
was
my
a
gosh.
newsroom record that I doubt has been matched even to this day.
Very good. Jim, I love that. They do absolutely in federal court bilk those law firms. They still do it to this day. I want to ask about younger Jim. What was your first job as a kid or young adult?
Well, it wasn't quite my first because I guess in some ways it was cutting lawns. But
Yeah.
in 1980, I was living in Knoxville with a bunch of guys in this
Hmm.
house, and I didn't have a car at the time. And of course, I needed a job. So I walked down the street to a culvert where there were 4 guys in the culvert working and asked them if they needed any help. And the guy, he turned out to be the foreman, went by hippie, said, sure, show up tomorrow at 6 a.m. And I did. So I worked for a month in my construction career through one of the worst record heat waves.
Ooh,
Oh gosh.
And that was definitely memorable.
yikes.
Wow. And you're like, I'll go in an air-conditioned newsroom. Thank you very much after that. Okay, so Jim, I have another question. Kind of want to get into personal life, Jim, aside from your work life. I know that you are a proud dad to a young adult son. Does he still go by Jimmy or is it
Jimmy.
Jimmy? Okay. So in addition to him, you're also would you call yourself a step grandpa to several little ones?
I just say I'm grand.
Grand. Okay. Got it. Got it. Get rid of the paw. It makes it seem less old. Yes. Yeah. And I know they're a big part of your life because you're always sharing pictures with us and you just seem to love spending time with them and being the babysitter. So, can you first tell our listeners what are their names and ages of these little ones that you are grand to? And then also, as a grandpa figure, what's a life lesson you're hoping to teach them?
Okay. Well, I've got a very happy extended family, families, and I count 5 grands, and they range from 1 to 11 years old.
Hmm.
Okay.
And, I have no favorites among them, but we'll note that I've got a 2-year-old redhead in New Orleans who calls
Yeah.
me Jim.
Oh.
And we were in a living room on our last visit, and about 6 of us in the room. And suddenly she just starts belting out the shark song. And she puts my name in the first verse. So I'm just
The
saying
baby
that
shark? Yeah.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
just hoping that all of those grands will learn to sing at least as well as I sing.
Okay. No, so speaking of New Orleans, you just mentioned so you live in Columbia, South Carolina, right?
Yes.
And you also spend time down in New Orleans
Oh, yeah.
visiting family. What town is the better food?
New Orleans by a mile, by several miles. Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite dish down there?
I don't really have a favorite dish. My girlfriend has 2 daughters,
Hmm.
and One has the 2-year-old, and the other is a chef at Audubon Park Restaurant.
Hmm.
She's a top chef there. So anything that Copeland makes is my favorite dish, whatever she's
Delicious.
doing. And that's can be at home or at Audubon Park or wherever she's.
Great.
So those are my favorites.
All right.
Of course, yeah. You said the name of the restaurant is
It's
Copeland's?
Audubon Park Clubhouse.
Okay. Yeah, just want to give it a shout out. So in case any
Right
of
by
our
the zoo.
listeners are in New Orleans, go look it up. It sounds like they have great food. Okay, next question. This is something we ask all of our guests. We're going to go back to young Jim again for a second. What was the first album that you ever bought or that you remember like listening to a lot when you were younger?
This is where I'd like to tell you that it was The Who's Live at Leeds, but alas, it was not.
Okay.
What I was demanding in 1972 was K-Tel's 22 explosive hits,
Oh my gosh.
and I got it.
Wait a second. So K-Tel, I loved those commercials back then. Like you, I coveted. I got to get a K-Tel. What were the explosive hits in 1972?
Well, I know that one of them, to my credit, was the song Layla,
Okay,
which
yeah.
I, at the time, knew only that it was by Derek and the
Oh, yeah,
Dominoes,
good one.
whoever the heck they were.
Yeah.
But it also had Popcorn,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was a real travesty. It ought to be some crime for that, putting out a
I,
song
I
like that.
don't disagree, but it lives up to its name, Popcorn.
Yeah, it does.
All right. You're going to have to look it up. But I believe, Jim, you're the first person to bring up K-Tel on the show. So thanks for that. Okay, Jim, one last question. What was the last movie you watched?
Okay, well, actually, it was last night. It was
Oh.
The Paper, which is a 1994 movie with,
Oh, how
got the guy's
appropriate.
name, did Batman in the 90s. But it's an excellent movie, very specific slice of journalism of the time, which is
Yeah.
tabloid newspaper in New York.
Yeah, that was a Ron Howard film, I
It was a
think.
Ron Howard film, and it's really good
Okay.
in capturing sort of the shabbiness of a newsroom.
Yeah.
That was right on the mark. And also like the character McDougal or Mac or whatever. It sounds like it would be just off the wall, but
Hmm.
actually could tell you a story of somebody that was wilder than him that I worked with.
Oh, we'll do that another time. But yeah, that was a decent Michael Keaton movie back then. So, The Paper. Okay.
1994.
Yeah, 94. There it
Okay.
is.
Sounds like a must watch for journalists.
Great.
Fun. Okay. All right. Well, Jim Duplessis, financial reporter here at CU Times, and our dear friend. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving our listeners, hopefully also our readers, a little insight into kind of your process here. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeb.
Thank you.
All right. And for all of our listeners, please subscribe to Shared Accounts with CU Times anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, wherever. You know how this works. And if you want to rate us, we'd love your feedback. And for those of you with questions or comments, feel free to email me over at nchilingarian@cutimes.com, or you can email Michael at mogden@cutimes.com.
That's right. Also, thank you to Valera for sponsoring the podcast this month, formerly PSU and Co-op Solutions. Valera, you guys are awesome. Thank you very much. And also thank you to our producer, Zach Nyheisel. Thanks, Zach. Join us again next week for a new episode of Shared Accounts with CU Times. Until then, thanks for listening.